My wife Susan and I were returning from a New York trip. We had an amazing time. She couldn't stop talking about it on the way home. I promised her we could go back whenever she wanted. We only lived 7 hours away. I have always been able to talk and pay attention to the road. It's why I'm always the one driving the car. I still remember the smile on her face, seconds before we were hit. A car came from the tree line and rammed into our car. I can remember Susan screaming for me to wake up. I couldn't open my eyes. When I finally woke up in the hospital, I was told she died on impact. For a couple of months, I went back to work. I was a police detective for a small town in Massachusetts. Everything came crashing down when I got Susan's life insurance. It was like being in a car accident all over again. I quit my job after that and spent 2 months in a mental hole that felt impossible to climb out of. Every moment spent trying to heal was agony. I had to find a different way to heal. I needed to keep myself occupied. In October, I became a private investigator. In November, I got the case that would change my perception of the world. I was sitting in my home office checking my email when I got the package delivered to my door. There was a loud series of knocks, followed by a loud thud on my porch. I slid my chair from my desk and ran to the door to see what happened. Susan would tell me to check the window first, so I did. I moved to the window closest to the door and peeled back the curtains. No one was standing on my porch, but there was a large package sitting at my door. After giving it some consideration, I opened my front door and took the box inside. It wasn't completely rare to have a client drop something off at my door. I slid the box onto my dining table and sat next down. I sat there for 10 minutes watching the box before finally using my keys to rip the tape open and check inside. The card on the top of the box was addressed to me, Noah. I sat down again and read the card out loud, twice. I am giving this package to you in the hopes that you can help me. In July, a series of kidnappings happened that we haven't been able to solve. $1,000 is enclosed in the envelope under this letter. It will cover your investigation. If you find anything, please call 351 XXXXXX. The moment I placed the letter on the table, I went looking for the money, and sure enough, it was all there. No one has ever given me that much up front, so this must have been serious. After counting the money, I looked around to see if there was a return address or something on the box. When I couldn't find it, I started digging through the folders. The first folder was for a girl named Victoria Summers. She had blonde hair and gray eyes. She was an average weight, and stood at 5 feet 5 inches. Victoria was 16, and the last picture taken of her was on her way to the school bus. The note attached to the photo said it was her mom who took it. As I went through the folder, I found a card. I slid it out of the folder and flipped it over. It was for someplace called the Steadfast Hotel. I had never heard of it. I put the card to the side with her photo and shook the bag. There was one more thing left inside. I reached in and pulled out a ring. The ring was blue and gold, and a tag attached to it read, "Cheerleading Championship Ring." I put the ring on her picture and slid the last item belonging to Victoria out of the box. It was her backpack. It had a lot of wear and tear on it. The note attached said that the bag was found by a janitor in the girls' bathroom. As I opened the backpack, I was surprised to see all of her school folders were left inside. I took the first binder I saw out and read the spine, property of Victoria Summers, Clearview High School. We didn't have a place called Clearview in my town, so I made a note to check the surrounding areas. I placed Victoria's items to the side. As I reached the end of the box, I found one more folder for a boy named Charlie Carter. I was surprised at how thick the folder was. I opened it looking for any information about him first, and when I couldn't find it, I went through each one of the pictures. The first was of Charlie sitting with the Clearview High School mascot. It looked like the mascot was a chimpanzee. Charlie had deep red hair and green eyes. The second photo was him sitting outside of a place called the Faraday Carnival, another place I had never heard of before. The third photo was extremely blurry. I could see Charlie sitting in front of a ride, but everything around him was blurry. His shirt had the words "white noise" on it. The last few pictures disturbed me. Everyone was of him sleeping, his dog sleeping, and what I assumed to be his parents sleeping. I quickly put everything back into the box and put the money in my coat pocket. I was going to bring the box to the police station, but I heard something rustling outside of my house. I moved quickly to get my boots on and took a baseball bat from next to my door with me. As I flung the door open, I could hear whimpering outside. It was too dark to make anything out clearly. "Hello." I screamed into the darkness, "Help me." A girl said as she came sprinting to my porch. She had blood all over her nose, the side of her head, and her white t-shirt. I held my bat out to keep her back. "Stay away from my porch." I screamed at the girl, "Please." The girl gasped at me as she grabbed the railing. "Who are you?" I called out, "My name is Taylor." She called back. I could tell it was getting harder for her to stand up. I decided to take a chance and lower my bat. Taylor trudged up the staircase. Once she reached me and the light hit her face, I recognized her right away. It was Taylor, from the picture. "How the hell did you find me?" I asked her as I helped her into my house. "The headache you got, I got one too," Taylor said as she clung to my arm. "We have to get out of here." Taylor wheezed as I brought her to the living room to sit down. "No, I have to call your parents," I told Taylor. "They're dead. They've been dead for months." Taylor hissed. I watched the tears stream down her face for a second before we heard the sound of coins shaking. I narrowed my eyes and moved to the closest window. "He's here." Taylor screamed as she got off the couch. "Who?" I asked before being blown back from the window. I hit the coffee table and gasped for air. I could feel wood digging into my sides. I could feel Taylor's hand grabbing at my shoulder, but everything was spinning. When I could finally see straight, I turned my head. A giant hook attached to a thick chain was sitting on the floor next to me. What the hell? I groaned as I finally got to my feet just in time to watch the hulking figure enter through the window. It was wearing a long black trench coat, big black boots, and broad shoulders. The hat on its head was tipped in a way that concealed its face from us. I could hear Taylor screaming at me to get up. I slowly moved my arm to reach under the couch as the creature lifted its head. He had a horse head, at least the skill of a horse on his head. The bones formed in such a way that didn't allow the mouth to open. I thought I was hallucinating. The creature screeched at me. I watched it slowly raise the chain in its hand. I wasn't going to allow it to hit me. I ripped out my arm from under the couch and shot the creature in the head. Its head snapped back and it fell backward. "It's not dead," Taylor screamed at me as she helped me to my feet. "I shot it in the head," I argued. "It doesn't matter." Taylor whimpered. She was right, I could hear it stirring. I contemplated going back to it and shooting it again, but if it was just going to get up, I figured that it would be a waste of ammunition. We ran into the kitchen and I grabbed the box. After that, I ran to the pantry and grabbed one of my go bags. "Come on," I told Taylor as I opened the back door for her. Making sure to put the gun in my pocket for now, I took Taylor to the car I had out back and helped her into the passenger seat. I put the box in the back seat and took the keys off of my hip to drive. "You keep your keys on you?" Taylor asked me. "Always," I said as I started the car and pulled around my house. I thought we were in the clear, but I was wrong. As my car hit the road, we heard a loud crash. I looked out of the window and saw its weapon right next to the car. I pressed the gas and drove as fast as possible. "What does it want?" I asked Taylor as I took a sharp turn. "Something you have." Taylor groaned. She was probably talking about something in the box. "Make sure to buckle up." I said seriously. This thing was still chasing after us 20 minutes later. We were fortunate that it was pretty late and there weren't a lot of cars on the road. Still, I made sure to stick to the back roads. "It will go away when the sun comes out," Taylor mumbled. I could tell she wasn't feeling good and neither was I. There was a searing pain in my chest. I was honestly surprised a hit from the monster didn't kill me. Luckily for us, Taylor was right. I kept driving around until around 6 in the morning. The creature finally disappeared when the sun came up. My next goal was to get us to a hospital, though I knew I had a lot of explaining to do. I let Taylor sleep for the rest of the ride. I still couldn't believe what I saw. That thing was clearly not human, and for it to just disappear was wild. We were fortunate that I grabbed my go bag, and had my cell phone with me. After we take a trip to the hospital, I am going to find out what that creature wanted from the box. Part 2. I know I haven't updated in a while. Everything got crazy once we got to the hospital. The good news is we got checked out at the hospital and they had a lot of questions about Taylor. The bad news is that we had to run as soon as we realized we were basically trapped in the hospital. I got my chest checked, and I have a broken rib but nothing overly serious. Normally, I would have taken things easy to let this injury heal, but that wasn't an option right now. Taylor had more serious injuries and for a moment I considered leaving her at the hospital, but we both knew if that monster came back for her it would kill anything in this hospital that got in its way. I checked myself out and told them I was going to take Taylor to a different hospital. They weren't hearing that though because I am not her legal guardian. So, I called my friend James who happens to be a doctor. He was going to be my last resort phone call because I didn't want him mixed up in all of this. James eventually helped us leave the hospital after I promised him I would explain everything. I wouldn't let him come with us because I didn't want to risk his life. Once we got back outside I helped Taylor to the car and locked all of the doors. We had to go through the box again and see if we could find what the monster wanted, but I also had to make sure we had enough gas to outrun the monster. What do you think the monster wants? I asked Taylor as I got back into the car from filling it up with gas. I also made sure to get us some food and water. Taylor wasn't feeling good so I put the back seat down for her. It was the best I could do under the circumstances. Probably the whole box, Taylor mumbled. I turned around to give her my jacket so she could at least be warm. The thought of losing all of the evidence made my stomach curl into knots. I could make copies of all of the photos but having the physical items could give us what we need to solve this case sooner. Why is it chasing you? I asked Taylor as we slowly drove around. I was watching the sunset, and as it got lower I could feel my body slowly getting tenser. When my family moved to Greenridge, everything was fine for a year. But, everything changed when I started writing for the school newspaper. Taylor started, for, I think 6 months, I began to notice weird things happening at the school. At first, I was brushing things off. Maybe I was going crazy because of stress or something. Taylor said before signing loudly. I could tell she was frustrated. Anyway, as the school year went on everything got worse for me. I thought that writing for the school newspaper would keep me distracted but after a while, it didn't help anymore. Taylor's voice cracked as she spoke. Anyway, towards the end of the year, people kept dying and the school was closed. I was spending more and more time at my parents' house. One day I went out to grab something from the store and I came back to them dead in the living room. It looked like their skulls had been split open. Taylor told me before forcing her body to turn to the window. I take it the monster started chasing you after that? I asked Taylor as we turned down another street. Yeah, and I have been running from him ever since. I finally ran out of money and that's when I had to come find you. It was like I was being drawn to you. Taylor mumbled. I could tell she was being honest and I didn't want to push her further. As I turned down the next street and clenched the steering wheel. It was hard for me to comprehend everything that was happening around me. As weird as it might sound, I was coming around to the current situation extremely fast. Something about what was going on felt so wrong, but being in the car with Taylor, it felt like I was supposed to be here. I watched the sunset, but this time we were ready to be chased. Taylor? Buckle up. I called to the back seat as I drove slightly faster down the street. I would slow down periodically when I could see other cars coming. Luckily, I knew how to stay on the back roads as much as possible. As I drove I could hear Taylor going through the box. I found something. She eventually told me, I can't turn around and look. Our mutual friend will be here soon. I said as I checked the mirrors. This monster is going to need a name. My thought process was that giving it a name would somehow make it less scary. A card hidden in the backpack straps, Taylor said as she tried to sit up and turn on the light. I quickly reached back to do it for her. It says enter this address into the GPS. Taylor shrugged as she handed me the card. I slowed the car down to read the address on the back and enter it into the GPS. We should name the monster, I said to Taylor as I entered the address. Why? She asked me. I think it will make it less scary, I said honestly. Fine, but we can't call him just any name, Taylor said seriously. I checked the mirror and could see her smiling a bit. I made a mental note to check the name Snowball or Mr. Hooks off of my list of names. I watched the GPS freak out for a second. She told me to keep driving down the street and suddenly hook a left. If I had listened to the GPS we would have hit a tree. What's going on? Taylor asked. I was going to answer her, but I could hear the familiar sound of a chain hitting the street. The monster was behind us. If it was in front of us I would have seen it in the lights. Caleb. Taylor hissed at me. I know, I said as I checked the mirrors. Sure enough, the monster was rushing us from behind. I didn't have time to wonder where it came from or how it found us. I slammed my foot on the gas and drove down the street as fast as possible. As we drove down the street the GPS was screaming at us. It kept telling us to keep going straight. The monster was gaining on us fast. I was trying to keep an eye on it and the road at the same time. Caleb. Watch out. Taylor screamed at me. I blinked and swerved the car to the right. I almost hit someone who was driving down the street. I checked behind us and watched the car drive through the monster like it wasn't there. The creature disappeared into a cloud of mist before reforming in the spot where it was standing. You have got to be fucking kidding me. I snapped before driving again. The GPS was screaming at us to continue down the road and we didn't have anywhere to go anyway. I thought I knew these roads by heart, but I was taken aback when the machine suddenly snapped at me to turn left. I did a quick double check and turned left as the machine demanded. The moment I hit this road I looked back and saw the monster standing behind us. It wasn't following us down the road. At first, I was relieved, but this monster had followed us everywhere. I couldn't help but wonder why it didn't want to follow us here. It stopped, Taylor said under her breath. I slowed the car down and continued driving down the street. Eventually, I could see a large neon sign glowing in the distance. Welcome to the Steadfast Hotel, glowing a bright red color and flashing. The hotel stood about 4 floors from what we could see outside. I was shocked. I had never heard of this place, and as far as I always knew the road we took to get here didn't exist. There was no way in hell I was going to leave Taylor in the car, so I got out and helped her up. Where are we? She asked me as I gently lifted her up. A hotel that a couple of the kids I'm investigating went to. Do me a favor and stay close. I won't be able to carry you inside. I told Taylor as I shut the door with my foot and walked to the front door of the hotel. I placed Taylor down and held the door open for her. As we both walked in I took in the hotel lobby. The carpet was a nice clean gray color and the walls were all painted charcoal black. The curtains were white and the trim of the lobby was white as well. Hanging in the middle of the lobby was a huge chandelier. To the side of the front desk there was a large staircase leading to the second floor. As we approached the front desk a man smiled at us. He had shaggy brown hair and light green eyes. It looked like he was wearing colored contact lenses. Hi. I started to say, but the man cut me off. We've been expecting you, Caleb. Taylor, you're late. Lotus will not take kindly to you both being so late. Before you can speak to him you must complete your black card task to prove that you possess a gift. The man said. I could tell by his tone that he wasn't joking. We don't have a black card, Taylor said to the man. Yes, you do. He insisted. I took a deep breath and prepared myself to argue further, but I could see the monster entering the lobby through the glass doors. It was walking in here like it owned the place. Your test is here. The man said as he reached under the counter. We knew you wouldn't understand, so we prepared your weapons in advance. He continued as he placed the case on the desk. Everything felt like it was moving in slow motion. I was tempted to take Taylor and run up the stairs with her. The man opened the case and spun it around so I could see. Sitting before us was a jet black revolver and a long metal rod with a bird on the top. I instinctively reached for the gun and watched Taylor take the staff. Holding the weapon in my hand felt right, it felt good. As I held the revolver I turned to face the door. This time I was going to kill this thing. Use your ammunition wisely. The man behind the counter said, Taylor. Take the staff, you will have to use it on the monster so it can die. The man told Taylor before opening a magazine. He was ready to sit here when a monster came into the lobby. He didn't seem bothered, it was as if this was a normal day for him. I was tired of being chased around. I was tired of having no answers, and I was fed up with the lack of weird shit happening to me and this girl. The moment the monster ripped the doors open I fired a round at its chest. At the same time, the creature swung its chain and hit the bullet from the air. It was blink and you'll miss it moment. I have never seen anything like that before. I was stunned. Caleb, Taylor screamed. Something hit me in the chest, this time with enough force to throw me back and make me cough up blood. My head was spinning and my vision was fading. Everything hurt. I clenched my hand around my gun and slowly sat up. As I coughed more blood into my lap I glanced around the room for Taylor. She was trying to keep as much distance between her and the monster as possible. But I could tell she wasn't going to be able to move much longer. She was sweating bullets. She wasn't healed enough for a fight like this. I quickly brought the gun up and fired 2 shots at the monster. I wheezed and coughed up more blood right after. It felt like I was going to die. As the bullets hit the creature, it slowly dropped to one knee and Taylor slammed her staff into the monster's neck. I watched the staff light up. It was extremely pretty. The glow lit up the whole room. It hurts to breathe. I couldn't breathe. When I woke up I was laying in a bed with a blue blanket pulled up to my chest. I quickly sat up, pain surging through my body. Taylor was sleeping in a separate bed closer to the window. As I looked around I spotted a note on the nightstand next to me. Lotus will see you both at 6. Don't be late. Further instructions were left for you on the nightstand. I read out loud. I let my body fall back and took a deep breath. Hey friends. Are you brave enough to face the darkness? Join our ever-growing community of thrill seekers by hitting that subscribe button now.